I'm a little interested in, like, is this squirrel immortal? Like, what's going on here? How old is this squirrel?
Hundreds of years.
You know what I mean? And it's a hammer, right, that ate the squirrel fruit, right? And we know that's like a thing. Like,
Maybe.
That's what it seems like.
That's always a thing in me in One Piece.
I did really like seeing the interaction between Emu and Loki and Ragnir, specifically the traitor part, because now it's like, okay, you were on my side in some way, and I'm calling you a traitor when it seems like the whole situation has been Emu betrayed Joy Boy in some way.
So I think Ratatoskr and the warrior god both passed during an ancient battle. Maybe with Nika. After Ratatoskr's death, the people who loved and remembered this ice squirrel wished for it to return. And that desire caused the Ratatoskr Devil Fruit to be born.
This goes into what I was saying earlier about, like, where is Emu's timeline in? Because right here, he's kind of addressing, I guess, Nimhog, and I guess Ragnir as well, but he's calling Nimhog a traitor. That's what it looks like, right? Remember, I think it was last chapter, I was questioning where Emu was. Like, all right, we know you were in Joy Boy's time. You met Joy Boy, you have a rivalry with Joy Boy. But then the way he speaks about it, I brought up how the only time we really got known of Nimhog was back with Nika. That one. My question was, did he live through that time as well with the ancient legendary giant that had Nimhog before, with that Nika and Joy Boy? Like, how long have you lived for? Now, I'm not saying this is confirmation that he has, but so now that makes you think, all right, was there another user after that giant? We don't know. Giants can live for, like, a very long time. So that could be a factor too. We know 300 years. So how far back was that Nika? And then did that Nika pass while that legendary giant continued living until Joy Boy's era? Like, I don't know. I'm just curious, like, how long have you lived? What is your timeline? Because you're saying that you're addressing Nimhog as if you know him and you're calling him a traitor. For someone to be, you consider a traitor, you had to be allies, friends, or whatever, or at least a type of relationship with that person, and that they turned their back on you. Or unless you hanging or whatever, or tried to, whatever. So with that history with Nimhog, is like, I'm curious about it. Like, was there another user, or is the same ancient giant from the past? Is what I'm figuring out before Loki. Hopefully Oda flushes that out soon. Maybe in the flashback, but maybe won't get on Elbaph, but we get the Elbaph soon too. I was Chopper was here to translate what Ragnir was saying.
Facts.
Yeah, he's like using cursing Emu out. Because I like that as soon as he finished saying all that, he attacks. He's like, man, I'm like, it kind of reminded me of, like, it's going to sound funny. Remember Aqua Teen Hunger First?
Yeah.
Like, you know how Beatwater or, like, Shake would talk mad trash or whatever? It kind of reminded me of that energy, and then they would, like, do something with it, because they also had powers as well. So I thought of that, like, pretty much, which is funny, because also, too, he's pointing out the history, going into what I was saying before, waiting for a new master. Showing that Emu kind of knew the ancient giant that had Nimhog and Ragnir before, and that all this time you've been waiting for this new master, and then you kind of found one in Loki. So that's what I'm saying is, maybe there wasn't someone before Loki and after the ancient giant, it was just that ancient giant and then Loki, and he's really, like, Ragnir's been waiting all this time for him. And that's what kind of Emu's pointing out here. So it could be that Emu lived a lot longer than the Void Century than we thought. When did this operation happen with him? Because Joy Boy had the Nika fruit, is what I'm saying. You know? So how far back does Emu actually go? Very interesting.
I'm a little interested in, like, is this squirrel immortal? Like, what's going on here? How old is this squirrel?
Hundreds of years.
You know what I mean? And it's a hammer, right, that ate the squirrel fruit, right? And we know that's like a thing. Like,
Maybe.
That's what it seems like.
That's always a thing in me in One Piece. Objects eating devil fruits has always been, like, the most ridiculous part of this whole show. But I was just always like, how old is this squirrel? You know what I mean? You immortal? Like, what's going on? You just sit up in your hammer form and then don't age? Or what's the tactic there?
I think the question becomes, can any weapon that's eating a fruit die?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, is Funk freed forever now?
Yeah. So that to me was also, I was like, as I was thinking about the beef he had with Emu, I was like, this squirrel's older than everybody here. Yeah. Like, what's happening? So I thought that was cool. Again, I mean, the whole lightning ice combo, I don't know, maybe I don't know science, but I was like, can you freeze? Like, I don't know. I was like, can you really? So I mean, but I liked how it looked. I always like Loki's dragon form. Loki is every day showing me that he's getting to this super top tier level. So
I did really like seeing the interaction between Emu and Loki and Ragnir, specifically the traitor part, because now it's like, okay, you were on my side in some way, and I'm calling you a traitor when it seems like the whole situation has been Emu betrayed Joy Boy in some way. At least that's how our perspective or theory crafters have kind of gone with. Like the 20 kingdoms rose up and eventually overtook the ancient kingdom. We don't know exactly what the details are, but in Emu's mind, he looks at Nidhogg as a traitor. And I thought the same thing about the Ragnir stuff that you guys are thinking. I wish Chopper was here to translate, as well as he's really old. And like the same thing you were just talking about, Lawrence. Based off of the lore drop that we got on Elbaph, Ragnir's been around since Nika was fighting this ancient warrior god of Elbaph. So it's like...
If that was Nika.
Yeah, seemingly. Yeah. Right? So it's like, unless that was Joy Boy, which who knows, but like in general, how long has Emu been around? Like, has he been around for a generation even prior to the Second World? And I was like, that's interesting. I don't know if that's the case per se. Maybe Ragnir, like, maybe there's something off in the lore. Like, there has been another carrier of Ragnir that existed during Joy Boy's time, right? Versus just the First World or whatever. I don't know. But I thought that was really interesting. And it's funny because he's still smiling and seems like happy to be interacting with these ancient figures because it's like reminding him of a time that was just a different time for him. Yeah. And I think that's pretty cool. Like, I don't know if it's humanizing Emu or not, but I like it. Like, it's like, yo, he's always looking at things in this other way. And it's like, when I see these people, I'm reminded of a different time in my life where I wasn't forced to hide in the shadows. I was able to exist in this space and fight and interact and joke and all the things. So I think that's pretty cool. I love that Loki fights with Ragnir in this way because it's not 1v1, bro. It's 2v1 now. Like, you fighting both of us. We can both attack you however we feel like. And the combined attack that they did, listen.
It was dope.
I won't get into a conversation me and Larry had over the weekend because I promised him I wouldn't. But this is why I love Devil Fruit so much. You know what I'm saying? Because we're seeing a giant lightning dragon with an ice squirrel shoot combined elemental attacks at some devil who got a sphere in the sky with eyes and it's shooting little black bombs. Like, I'm like, yo, this is just, I love seeing that. It's, to Jared's point, it's fantastical. It's part of why I fell in love with One Piece in the first place. And now we're seeing it at like the highest possible level, I think. And I think that's super dope.
Yeah, I'm so fresh like the morning. Mouth wide open like they yawning. Every time they see me, they in G-Shock. Homie, this is too far. Homie, I feel too alive. You can see me like Illuminati. You can see me like Illuminati. But I'm shining so bright, so bright. Don't come and try to share some of this light now. Give me a beat and I control it like a maestro. Ladies on a mission, they be trying to get me wiped up. Shawty, wait a minute, can't tell if I like ya. Gotta make sure you know how to shake it like a bartender. Team with me and they all winners. And you know we ballin' all winner.
All right, I know I'm gonna get hate for saying this, but I think I was wrong. For a while now, I've been saying that the Sun God Nika was never a real person. But after this chapter, we may have just gotten confirmation that he actually was. And Lawrence was right. Yaruo explains that Elbaph has a legend about a warrior god. This god wielded a weapon known as Ragnir, Iron Lightning, and transformed into an enormous dragon to battle the sun god. Fighting beside him was a loyal ice squirrel named Ratatoskr. Here's the important part. Yaruo says that after the warrior god passed, Ratatoskr chose to inhabit his weapon rather than be without its master. Then we get Emu's dialogue. Emu says he recognizes the affinity between Nidhogg and Ratatoskr and specifically mentions how Ratatoskr and Ragnir have remained as they were in the days past. That line changes everything for me. Here's why. I think this confirms Nika was a real being. If Yaruo's legend is true, then the warrior god was the previous user of the Nidhogg Devil Fruit while wielding Ragnir. They were infusing the Nidhogg into the Ragnir, and that would make the lightning hammer that they spoke of, right? That's what Loki's doing right now. But Yaruo describes Ratatoskr as a separate living creature, a real ice squirrel that fought alongside the warrior god. That means Ratatoskr and Ragnir originally existed as separate entities. But later, Ratatoskr somehow inhabits Ragnir. And now Ratatoskr is also known as a devil fruit. So how is that possible? I think the answer lies in Vegapunk's explanation of devil fruits. Vegapunk theorized that devil fruits are born from the collective desires and wishes of people, right? If enough people wish for something to exist, that desire could manifest into a devil fruit. So I think Ratatoskr and the warrior god both passed during an ancient battle, maybe with Nika. After Ratatoskr's death, the people who loved and remembered this ice squirrel wished for it to return. And that desire caused the Ratatoskr Devil Fruit to be born. That would also explain something the Gorosei told us. Zoan fruits have wills of their own. If they want to be found, they will find their way to their destination. And to go even further, before Kaku ate his Zoan Devil Fruit at Enies Lobby, he mentioned that he sensed a strange power, something like gravity, coming from the fruit he was about to eat, which was his Zoan Giraffe Fruit. So, what if the Ratatoskr fruit eventually returned to Elbaph and found its way back to Ragnir to wait for its master? But that raises another question. How did Ratatoskr become fused with Ragnir in the first place? And I think the answer connects directly to the Ancient Kingdom. And it's basically what Sebastian said. Kobe stated that Vegapunk is the greatest scientist in the world because he discovered how Devil Fruits confer powers and even figured out how to feed Devil Fruits to inanimate objects. This was most likely because of the discovery of the lineage factor, or the rediscovery of the lineage factor. But what if Vegapunk wasn't the first one to utilize Devil Fruits this way? I think the previous user of the Brain Fruit lived during the Second World within the Ancient Kingdom. That would explain the kingdom's impossible technological advancement and their relationship to Elbaph. Just like Vegapunk, the previous Brain user may have learned how to transfer Devil Fruit abilities into objects through lineage factor technology. In other words, they figured out how to fuse the Ratatoskr Devil Fruit with Ragnir. That's why Ratatoskr and Ragnir are now treated as one entity. And it also explains how Emu knows of them. If Emu only existed from the Second World onward, then Emu wouldn't know the original living Ratatoskr from the First World. Emu only knows the fused version, the Devil Fruit infused Ragnir that persisted into later ages. Which brings me back to Nika. If Ratatoskr was once a real living being before becoming a Devil Fruit, then Nika could have been too. That would mean the human fruit model Nika wasn't created from pure myth alone. It was created from the memory, belief, and desire surrounding a real person who once existed. And if that's true, then every insane ability we see Luffy use may have originally belonged to the real Nika himself. I think Nika existed during the First World with the first Nidhogg user. This would mean that maybe Nika wasn't the first Devil Fruit either, and Nidhogg came before him. The only issue I still struggle with is this. In One Piece, irrational or supernatural powers are almost always explained through Devil Fruits. So if Nika existed before Devil Fruits, how did he naturally possess all these ridiculous, reality-bending abilities in the first place? Was the world of One Piece more fantastical than it is now?
Yeah, he's a god. That's why he revered him.
No, I really like that. That was cool.
Yeah, it's crazy, like, how Oda is kind of addressing, like, the old worlds in that way, and he's giving us these little glimpses of it, and what we're seeing, like you're saying, more fantastical, and, like, because also, too, like, you think about, like, what Larry said, you had the Lunarians. What they're able to do, people like Lunarians don't really exist in the One Piece world now, but they did how many years back? So it's not so far-fetched to see, like, all right, you have some people like Lunarians existing. Someone like a Nika exists as well.
I will say two things. The Ratatoskr that we see in the current story does not look like the Ratatoskr that we see in the big silhouetted lore story. Yeah, like it does look like a completely different, like it's the same being, you know what I mean? But it's not the same person, if that makes sense. Like it's the same animal. Yeah. And then, like you said, Larry, because it was waiting for this person that it used to fight alongside with, it fused with the hammer. Wait, is what the lore says. So it's like, it's very possible somebody from Elbaph or whatever was just hoping for this person to come back, like this warrior god to come back, this Ratatoskr to come back, and wished up and conjured up a Devil Fruit in that way. And I like the connection with the brain fruit. Somebody from that world who had it was able to figure out what Vegapunk did and rediscover or originally discover the lineage factors and stuff. Like I don't know, I really like all of that.
I think that if we're saying, you know, Nika and all these folk existed before Devil Fruits, maybe they're just a race of gods. Maybe that was what kind of started this whole thing. Maybe all these powers derived from this ancient species before a lot of them all came, you know, the giants and the Lunarians, you know, because when we think about where all these ancient species came from, right? I mean, we just kind of assume they're just, you know, evolution from whatever, right? But I'm like, well, what if it was just straight gods out here wilding? You know what I mean? Before all the wars.
Like cross breeding?
Well, I mean, when you talk about like the rain god and Nika and the sun and the warrior god, it might have just been like, the world might have just been like a straight up Mount Olympus.
I did think
and they were
Greek
just
mythology-
out.
You know what he's saying there's Nephilim
Yeah, he's basically
across
saying
the world before
yeah.
it.
And I mean, Zeus and what was Zeus's dad's name? Like they all just had kids with all these humans. Yeah, Kronos. They all had kids with these like human people in their stories.
Or maybe and of course maybe it not be technically like the god as in what we may look at it like, but I just maybe like a species of phenomenally powerful beings. Possibly.
So the first world might be even crazier than the second world, bro.
Mm-hmm.